When it comes to protecting your bike, you've got two choices, a polish like this or a wax like this. The difference is a polish is slightly abrasive and so is going to take some material away each time you use it, and a wax is simply going to coat what's there. Now, because this bike is very old and covered in a multitude of scratches, I'm going to use a polish which should get rid of most of them. Put the polish on the cloth and you'll get less polish collecting in the cracks. I'm starting with the cleanest bits and working my way down. Apply more pressure and you'll remove more scratches. Don't be afraid to use plenty of polish, but because it's abrasive you shouldn't use it on your screen as it will dull it eventually. Paints can be quite thin on certain parts of your bike, for example on your wheels, so if you're using polish, keep an eye out and make sure you're not going through to the undercoat. If in doubt, use a wax instead. The drying polish is also going to protect the paintwork from the rubber and plastic cleaner to save me from having to polish it all over again. So whilst the polish is drying, I'm going to protect all the rubber and plastic parts, and on a bike like this there's absolutely loads of them, so I've really got my work cut out. You'll find that even though your parts look clean, they'll still give up some more dirt as you go, so keep changing your cloth around. It's detailing like this that will make your bike look really clean, so it's worth spending plenty of time on it. Spray the liquid on the cloth for cables and pipes, and spray the parts where you're doing big bits like mudguards or where there's no chance of overspray or the parts are off the bike. If you leave them to dry out, you'll get a shinier finish than if you buff the cleaner off. One word of warning, don't even think about using rubber cleaner on your controls or seats or footrests. Naughty boy! So now that I've left the polish to dry, I'm going to start buffing it off in the same place as I started putting it on, using one of these microfiber cloths. And these really are worthwhile because they leave you with a really deep smear-free shine, and you can just keep washing and reusing them. Buffing off is of course totally simple. The only points needing mention are to make sure the bike and the polish are bone dry before you start. And if necessary, and by necessary I mean if you're as obsessively compulsive as I am, use a very soft and very clean brush to get rid of the final bits of dried polish from all your nooks and crannies. Now, because of all the degreaser we've used, the chain is bone dry, so it's vital we get some oil on there straight away, and by that I mean the same day. It is best practice, of course, to oil your chain whilst it's warm after you've been riding around, but we don't have that luxury, so I'm just going to squirt some on anyway. Because any plating on chains is often worn away, they'll literally rust overnight if you don't lube them. I'm doing it before I put the chain guards back on, just to make my life easier, and taking care to keep the wheel as clean as possible. Okay, so that's the chain fully greased up. Now it's on to the really gratifying part of putting everything back on. But before I do that, I'm going to quickly clean the fasteners. Keeping them in their respective containers, just pour or squirt a little WD-40 in there with them, making sure you've got your brake pans out first, of course. Give them a shake and then clean each one off with a rag ready to go back on. I resist the temptation to use a wire brush on them because that would destroy any plating and make them rust far more quickly. I always use a blob of copper grease, especially when I'm screwing steel fasteners into alloy parts, to stop any bimetal corrosion. If you're not confident in putting the right bolts back in the right holes, try taking photographs when you're taking them out. I'm a fan of the process of elimination method, using the fasteners I'm certain about first and whittling them down that way. When I'm putting the brake pads back in, I use copper grease on the pins, clips and the backs of pads to make sure everything works and slides as it should. I also make sure I put the pads in the right way round. There are a few final things we can do to finish off the bike if you've still got the energy.